Hari Om. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Team Param Vedanta welcomes you all for the session 50 of GIFT, Gita for Inner Freedom and Transformation. Last class, we have studied the verses from 9.28 to 9.32. In today's session, we will be studying the verses 9.33 and 9.34. This 9.34 is the concluding verse and it ends with the study of 9th chapter called Rajavidya and Rajaguhya Yoga because it reveals the highest knowledge, Rajavidya, and the most profound secret, Rajaguhya, of spiritual wisdom. This chapter teaches that devotion to God and understanding His divine nature leads to liberation. Krishna reassures that those who worship Him with whole heart, they are granted eternal peace and protection. Continuing which, we will be beginning with the 10th chapter called Vibhuti Yoga and studying the verses from 10.1 to 10.3. To explain these verses, we have with us Mr. Vinayakan, Srimati Radharavi, Dr. Jagadish, and Dr. Deepak Kamath. Today's moderation, presentation, and deeper inputs will be given by Srimati Pannaga. Over to you, Pannaga.
Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Good evening, friends. Today we are in a milestone session of the Gita for Inner Freedom and Transformation. It's sheer coincidence that we complete 50% of the Bhagavad Gita today because we're going to complete the 9 chapters and it is on session 50. So it's just a nice coincidence. Bhagavad Gita, as we all know, is the greatest life-transforming text known to man. And we have been studying it for the last several months. So now that we've finished half our portions, is it time for midterm exams? Swami Paramarthanandaji cheerfully threatens to give us a test. And then he gives us the FIR, which is a self-examination of our own mental state. So what does FIR stand for? We already know this. Has our frequency of being emotionally disturbed reduced? Has the intensity of each disturbance reduced? And how long does it take for us to recover from each disturbance? That is, what is our time lag between what to so what? Let us now attempt to just study the first 9 chapters very, very quickly. So the subject matter of the Bhagavad Gita is strengthening our mind and developing inner resistance towards changing external conditions. It is not changing the external world. I repeat, it is not changing the external world. The external world will continue to remain the same. This freedom, after studying the Bhagavad Gita, what we're going to get from mental disturbances caused by external factors is called moksha. This is, in a sense, the gist of the Bhagavad Gita. So, how does it start? It begins with Bhagwan Vedavyasa presenting the context. So, we have Arjuna, who has for years been preparing to fight the Kauravas, and finally he is set, or he is all set to fight, and he's in the battlefield. But when the conch is blown and the battle is about to start, he suddenly shivers and is unable and absolutely incapacitated to fight, because he discovers his intense attachment towards his opponents, who happen to be his own family and gurus. So, what is the consequence of Arjuna's raga, or intense attachment? That is shoka, because when we don't get what we want so much, or when something is going to happen to them, it leads to great sorrow or vishada. Hence, the title of this chapter, Arjuna Vishada Yoga. The consequence of this vishada is moha, or delusion. Arjuna now thinks that this dharma yuddha that he is going to fight is actually adharma. And the chapter ends with him just sitting in the middle of his chariot, putting down his bow and arrow. So, what is samsara that we understand from here? It is a combination of raga, shoka, and moha. Combined leads to samsara, or suffering. The next chapter, chapter 2, is Sankhya Yoga. So the chapter begins with Arjuna realizing his helplessness, karpanya dosha, and finally he surrenders to Krishna. And it is only after after Arjuna surrenders, that Krishna begins the Gitopadesha. Krishna until then doesn't utter a word, though he knows exactly what is happening to Arjuna. So this part highlights the importance of surrendering to the Guru. The second chapter now is the longest chapter, and it summarizes the entire Gita. So we are born, we know that we are born with a body, and we grow up with this body and mind identification, completely identifying only with this body and mind. So what Krishna reveals here is the jiva is, or our own true nature, as the Atma. He says that I am not this limited body mind. He's telling Arjuna that Arjuna is not this limited body mind, but the infinite, unchanging, eternal, all pervading, independently existing, pure consciousness. I, the Atma, am the enlivening witness. I am an akarta and an abhokta. In my mere presence, everything happens in this world. And this is the gnanam. This is the moksha teaching. So this teaching is, of course, very incredible, unbelievable. And most people will not get it at all. That's why Sri Krishna tells Arjuna to begin with Karma Yoga as his first spiritual sadhana. Krishna will explain Karma Yoga in the next chapter. In the second chapter, we have a glorious section on the Sthita Prajna. So who is a Sthita Prajna, or a Sthira Prajna? A Sthita Prajna is one who has made Karma Yoga a way of life, and then he gains Atma Gnanam from a guru. Then he assimilates it and becomes a Jivan Mukta. He is a Sthita Prajna. Lord Krishna gives us 3 practices to become a Sthita Prajna. The first is Indriya Nigraha, control of the sense organs, what we see, hear, talk, and Mano Nigraha, using the intellect to direct my thoughts. Thoughts keep coming, they are quite involuntary, but our intellect has the capacity to decide what thoughts to entertain and what to discard. So that is Mano Nigraha. The third is Nididhyasanam, that is meditation upon the Vedantic teaching to assimilate it and allow it to seep into our subconscious, so it affects every action and every thought of our life. What are the qualities of a Sthita Prajna? The first is Purnatva, that is freedom from binding desires. I am complete and self-fulfilled, irrespective of whatever I get or don't get from this world. The second is samatvam, or equanimity of the mind. I have the tiksha or tolerance, and I'm free from intense emotions. Thus, when we become a Sthita Prajna, we would have passed the FIR test with flying colors. Now we move on to Karma Yoga, that is chapter 3. That is the first spiritual sadhana for any seeker. Sri Krishna beautifully summarizes the practices of Karma Yoga in this verse, Mai Sarvani Karmani. So what does he say? He says, Adhyatma Chetasa, that is, use your viveka and give spiritual growth priority over and above material goals. This is very important. Second, Mai Sarvani Karmani Sanyasa. Offer or renounce the doership of your actions, or offer all your actions to the Lord. Ishvara Arpana Bhavana. When we do this, there is sincerity in our actions, we do it well, and there is contentment when we finish doing them. Sri Krishna also tells us to practice the Panchamahayagna. Third, Nirashihi. Have no expectations and accept any result as Ishvara Prasada, or God's will. Fourth is again very important, Nirmama. We don't have any mamakara, that I did it. Humbly appreciate the blessing of the Lord in your success. Finally, there is Vigata Jwara. So after following all the above, we will be blessed with samatvam and a stable, steady mind through all our transactions day in and day out. This in essence is Karma Yoga. Now we come to chapter 4, Gnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Sri Krishna begins this chapter by differentiating between Jiva and Avatara. Jiva, we know, is born due to his own past karmas, but an Avatara is God descending to establish Dharma in the world. Gnana Karma Sannyasa. What does the title mean? It says it is renouncing the doership of action through knowledge. That is, have no ahankara and no mamakara. Sri Krishna then progresses to give the highest Upanishadic teaching, which is actually very rarely seen in the Gita. In this beautiful verse, I'd like to chant it. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. Here it says it's actually meant for a grihastha, like all of us. And what does it say? Everything that is Brahman. There is no matter other than consciousness. Though this universe appears solid and tangible, but it is not so in reality. The reality is the substratum that is only consciousness. So this negation of the universe is Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. We accept only the apparent reality of the universe and accept the absolute reality of Brahman as everything. So what is Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya? Aham Brahmaiva Naparaha. Next, we move on to chapter 5, Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Actually, chapter 5 is a summary of the previous 3 chapters. Sri Krishna is such a master teacher that he time and again summarizes what he has said earlier. So the message is not lost on Arjuna and all of us. So there are 2 lifestyles: the extroverted lifestyle that a grihastha leads, and this is called pravritti marga, and there is a withdrawn or the introverted lifestyle in sannyasa ashrama for a sannyasi, and this is nivritti marga. But Krishna says that you can choose your lifestyle, but you cannot choose the order of your sadhanas. You have to first do karma yoga and then progress to gnana yoga. There is this beautiful 7th verse which sums up the progress of a spiritual seeker. yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriyaha sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvannapi na lipyate. So it says, become a karma yogi. Then through Viveka and Vairagya and Karma Yoga, continue purifying your mind. So you become a Vishuddhatma. Then you gain mastery over your sense organs and mind. That is Vijitatma. Here Atma means mind. And Jitendriyaha, that is you master your Indriyas. Then with this prepared mind, you attain Gnanam and then see the essential oneness in all beings. Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. And when you have achieved this state of where you can see the essential oneness, kurvan apina lipyate, you continue to act, but you are not affected by any action or its results. Now we come to the 6th chapter, that is Dhyana Yoga. Again, Sri Krishna is such a master teacher that after giving all this vast, profound knowledge, he gives Arjuna a practical tool to assimilate it, to allow him to understand and let it cascade into his daily life. So Dhyana Yoga or Vedantic meditation is the method of assimilating Vedantic knowledge. We must know here that Upasana or Saguna Ishvara Manasa Vyapara, that is meditating upon the Saguna form of the Lord, gives Gnana Yogyata. Shravanam from a competent guru gives Gnanam, and Nididhyasanam gives Gnana Nishtha. And it's only when we are a Gnana Nishtha that we can enjoy the benefits of Jivan Mukti, or a free mind, the emotional freedom that we saw in the beginning of this class. So what all does meditation include? The first is Bahiranga Sadhanani, or general disciplines to be followed at all times. That is Karma Yoga. Second is self-confidence. This is so important. It says, never look down upon yourselves, whatever be your situation. We are all God's creations. The third is self-control. And the fourth is maintain moderation in everything you do. So now we come to the practice of Vedantic meditation. That is, we have Antaranga Sadhanani. These are specific disciplines for meditation where you have a proper seat, place, time, your mind, your breathing, and sense organs are in tune with that you're going to do meditation now. Then there is Dhyana Swaroopam, that is the process of meditation where you direct your mind. It is not making your mind devoid of any thoughts, but it is directing it towards Vedantic thoughts. Then there is Dhyana Phalam, that is you become a Gnana Nishtha or a Jivan Mukta. And after describing meditation, Krishna knows, or Arjuna asks him that it is so difficult to concentrate or to practice meditation. So that is because of vikshepa, or the wandering nature of the mind. And the solution that Lord Krishna gives is vairagya, that is detachment from this material world, at least during the time of, in general also, and especially during meditation and abhyasa, because meditation is a learned skill. We have to train our minds to behave the way we want it to. The chapter concludes with the Yoga Brashta topic. So Arjuna is wondering whether he will be able to reach Dhyana Phalam in this lifetime. And Krishna tells him that don't worry, even if you don't achieve Dhyana Phalam in this lifetime, you will take off from wherever you left in your next birth, which will be in a good, conducive family. Now we come to chapter 7, that is Gnana Vijnana Yoga. This is now a big shift in the topics. In the first Shatkam, the Prathama Shatkam, we saw Jiva Swarupa, our own nature, and Karma Yoga was the sadhana. In the Madhyama Shatkam, we learn about Ishvara Swarupa, and Upasana is the primary sadhana here, and there is Ishvara Anugraha, or the Lord's grace. So what is Gnanam in this chapter? It is the knowledge of the lower Saguna form of
Increase the volume. I'll increase.
That is the Para Prakriti, or this entire material universe. What is Vijnanam? Vijnanam is knowledge of the higher nirguna Ishvara, the apara prakriti or the consciousness principle. So this world is a combination of both para and apara prakriti, and that's why it is the divine manifestation of Ishvara's higher and lower nature. This chapter begins the divinization of the world. And Sri Krishna says here that this world is so powerful with Maya. So it is very difficult to cross over. And before this, he mentions that the cause of samsara is depending on the changing para prakriti for our peace, happiness, and security. So Krishna presents bhakti as the only remedy. We must note here that bhakti is a series of spiritual sadhanas culminating in gnanam. It is not just one sadhana, but it comprises of and encompasses all the spiritual sadhanas which should culminate in gnanam. And Sri Krishna also gives us the famous fourfold classification and evolution of bhakti: Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu, and Gnani. The Gnani Bhakta is closest to Lord Krishna because he has there is no distinction at all, because he does not identify with his body and mind. He identifies with the consciousness. And this Gnani Bhakta achieves Sarvatra Samadarsanam. Now we come to the 8th chapter. It's usually called the odd one out chapter, titled Akshara Brahma Yoga. Here we learn about Krama Mukti. That is, for an Agnani Nishkama Upasaka Bhakta, who is completely devoted to God, practices Nishkama Upasana, but for some reason he is unable to find a guru and gain Vedanta Gnanam. So when he dies, he goes to Brahmaloka, and there he receives Brahma Gnanam from Lord Brahmaji himself, and he attains Krama Mukti. So it is not Jivan Mukti that Krishna prescribes in all the other chapters. It is Krama Mukti here. So Lord Krishna says, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara, and then fight. So remember me at all times and fight. That is, you have to do your duty. You cannot escape. But with your mind and intellect fixed upon me, you will attain me alone doubtlessly. We also learnt in this chapter that our collective karma necessitates the manifestation of the universe again and again. So our take-home message from this chapter is not Krama Mukti, but it is to consistently practice Upasana for training our mind. Then we gain Gnanam and attain Jivan Mukti here and now. All right. That is 8 chapters until now. And we will hear from Vinayakan, who will continue with chapter 9, and I will come back to summarize it. I invite Vinayakan to please explain verse 33.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namah. So, 9th chapter, Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yoga is continuing. 2 more verses. So, through previous verses, Lord Krishna points out that even those people who have got certain spiritual obstacles or disadvantages, those people can take bhakti and attain liberation. So this verse says that, Kim punar brahmanaha punya bhakta rajarshayasthatha anityam asukham logamimam prapya bhajasvamam. So through previous verse, Lord Krishna says that guna vaishyas and guna shudras and those who are with sinful birth certainly attains the supreme by taking refuge in me. If so, what to talk of guna brahmana and guna kshatriya? They already got advantages from birth as sattvic and selfless nature. Definitely through bhakti, these people also reach to liberation. So next slide. Next slide. We will see Bhashyam. Next slide. Yeah. Bhashyam says, Kim punah brahmana punyayonaya bhakta rajarshaya tadaha yajana cha te rishaya cha rajarshaya yata hevam ada anityam kshanabhanguram asukam chat sukhavarjidam imam lokam manushya prapya purushatta sadhanam dullabham manushyatvam labdva bhajasva seva aswayam swam ayam. So, meaning kim puna brahmana, what to talk of sattvic people and bhakta rajarshaya, the great rajarshis or the saintly kshatriyas, yada hevam ata. Therefore, anityam kshanabhanguram asukam indicates that our life is short and impermanent. Asukam equals sukhavarjidam. Imam lokam, manushya loka or manushya janma is durlabham purushartha sadhanam. This manushya janma is itself a great janma, a very rare means to moksha. Mam bhajasva, may you worship me. Next slide. So through undevoted bhakti, we can reach to moksha. So develop devotion to Lord, make Lord as ultimate God, always surrender to the Lord. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Vinayakan, for that nice explanation of this beautiful verse. So, chapter 9 is Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yoga, as Radha gave a nice introduction of this chapter in the beginning. Here, Lord Krishna begins this chapter by stressing on the importance of Shraddha for a seeker. So, this knowledge is difficult to understand and apply. But Lord Krishna tells us that if we have patience, continue with all the sadhanas, then we will surely reach our goal. This chapter gives us nirguna ishvara gnanam. It says that consciousness is sarvagatam, all-pervading, avyaktam, that is indriya agocharam, it's not available to our senses, asanga, it is not, it's unsullied, is the word used, by anything in this world, and it is the mithya jagat adhishtanam, the substratum on which this mithya jagat stands. And it is Jagat Srishti Sthiti Laya Karanam. Yet it remains as Akarta and Abhokta because it is in the mere presence of Lord Krishna's higher nature that Maya proceeds to create and proceeds to manifest and unmanifest and create this world. In the beginning of this chapter, we have two beautiful verses which seemingly contradict each other. The second line of that verse says, Matsthani sarva bhutani. It says, here Lord Krishna says, the whole world rests in me. And then he goes to tell the exact opposite in the very next line when he says, Nacha matsthani bhutani. He says that I am not in any being. So here, we can understand this by knowing that Lord Krishna's higher nature or our own consciousness principle, the Atma, is in and through everything and everyone in this universe. As we just saw, it is the Mithya Jagat Adhishtanam. So this explains, and it is so close to me because it is in and through me. That's why it is immanent, the closer than your very breath. And then Krishna says that I am not in any being. Here it explains his transcendental nature because he is not the matter that we are made of. Just like the clay is there in the pot, but if you just have a lump of clay, there is no pot in the clay. So this explains that Lord Krishna, that is his higher nature or the Atma, is over and beyond this material universe. That is the explanation that can be given to explain the seeming contradiction. They are, of course, at two levels of reality, the Vyavaharika and the Paramarthika realities. And what does Krishna say? Just like in the 7th chapter, he presents bhakti as the remedy to samsara. And again here, we have to graduate from sakama bhakti to nishkama. As Vinayakan just explained, Lord Krishna says anybody, even those who are born with very unfavorable circumstances, even they can attain the highest human goal of moksha. So, Arjuna, you having a very blessed human birth with access to everything, and you have a guru, so definitely you will attain me. That is Sri Krishna's reassurance. I now invite Srimati Radha Ravi to tell us the concluding verse of the 9th chapter. Again, one of the most beautiful verses in the entire Gita. Over to you, Radha.
Hari Om. I'll be talking about the verse 9.34, which is the last concluding verse of 9th chapter. The shloka goes like this. Manmanā bhava madbhakto madhyājī namaskuru māmēvaiṣyasi yuktvaivamātmānam matparāyanah. Fix the mind in me. Be my devotee. Keep me as the supreme goal. Be my worshipper. Surrender to me. Fixing the mind in this manner, you will reach me alone, who am the self. So, this is one of the beautiful concluding verses, and perhaps can also be called as the crux of Bhagavad Gita in my view. This profound verse encapsulates the stages of devotion which ultimately helps one in attaining moksha. Here, Krishna explains the way of life to attaining moksha. This can be looked at as a conditions or elements or stages based upon the perspective. In this verse, Krishna talks about 5 stages of bhakti. Madbhaktaha, matparāyanah, Manmanā bhava, madyājī bhava, and namaskuru. So now let us look at the deeper meaning of each word. The first stage is madbhaktaha, develop devotion. Initially, the journey begins with the devotion for worldly possessions and gains. In the previous verses, we have seen 4 types of bhakti: artha bhakti, artharthi bhakti, jignasu bhakti, and jnani bhakti. Artha bhakti is one who seeks God for material gains and security. Artharthi bhakti is one who prays for specific desires to be fulfilled. Jignasu bhakti is one who seeks knowledge and understanding of the divine. And jnani bhakti is one who seeks God for the sake of realizing the truth. In the first 2, artha and artharthi bhakti, the devotee sees God as the means to achieve worldly goals, thinking that material goals can bring the peace of mind. This is called as sakama bhakti or artha artharthi bhakti. This type of bhakti can give peace to your mind to a certain extent, and hence Krishna affirms, in whatever the form you worship me, I will fulfill your desire. Therefore, God is commonly called as here Arthatrāṇa-parāyanah or Sarvavarada. So the second stage of bhakti is matparāyanah. Make God the ultimate goal. Gradually, as one matures spiritually, instead of keeping God as the means, the devotee must see God as the ultimate goal of life. He must understand that the true happiness, peace, and security come from God alone. The pursuit of material possession often leads to dissatisfaction because the nature of the material objects encompass atruptikaratvam, bandhakatvam, and dukkha mishritatvam. Here, matparāyanah means param ayanam, which means ultimate goal of life. Thus, the devotee should go through the shift from God as the means to God as the ultimate goal. So, once the devotee understands his ultimate goal, he has to go to the next step. So, next slide. The next stage is Manmanā bhava. Keep God in mind. Here, Krishna says, once the devotee chooses the God as ultimate goal, one should not lose the sight of ultimate goal while engaging in daily activities. One should remember the divine presence within and around oneself. This is also otherwise called as mumukshu bhakti. Manmanā bhava means like a musician keeping the shruti in the background while singing. Similarly, keeping God in our subconscious mind while performance of activities, it shall transform all activities as a symphony of happiness. So the next stage is madhyājī bhava. Transform actions into worship. Worship in action. Convert every action into an offering to God. Yad karosi, yad asnasi, yad juhosi dadasi yat. It is articulated in verse number 9.27. Here, Krishna says, whatever you do, eat, offer, or give, do it as an offering to me. Like this, turning daily tasks into acts of devotion. Or by infusing daily activities with a sense of devotion, one should transform karma into karma yoga. In other words, one should perform even the mundane activities with Ishvara Arpana Bhava and accepts the results as Ishvara Prasada Bhava. So the next stage is namaskuru, surrender to God. Finally, Krishna says, as the devotee grows spiritually, one should remain with the sense of humility. This is possible only by acknowledging that success is due to God's grace and blessings. Spiritual growth is possible only when both personal efforts and a divine grace couple together. Hence, Krishna asserts to surrender one's ego and seek God's guidance, trusting in his wisdom and love. In summary, these 5 principles guide a devotee towards a life that intervenes daily existence with spiritual growth, ultimately leading to a deeper connection with the divine. If the aforesaid conditions is fulfilled, Krishna guarantees evam atmanam yukta. Thus, engaging oneself in this devotional, religious, Vedantic life, Krishna asserts māmēvaiṣyasi. One will attain Krishna or Brahman alone, that is moksha. In other words, one can start with Ekarupa Bhakti, gradually shift to Vishwarupa Bhakti, and ultimately reach the stage of Arupa Bhakti. Thus, Bhakti is like the pervasive, brooding, omnipresent substratum in the spiritual sadhana. With the tambura shruti of the Lord within our conscience and subconscious mind, let us try developing the unconditional trust and love towards the Lord to invoke the blessings for not falling into the trap of magnanimous battle called Samsara Samaram. This ends with the 9th chapter called Rajavidya and Rajaguhya Yoga. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Radha, for this elaborate and wonderful explanation of this lofty and most beautiful verse. I have nothing to add, but I would just want to repeat the same things again. So the first step is madbhakta bhava, develop devotion. The second is matparāyanah bhava, make God the ultimate goal. The third will be Manmanā bhava, keep God always in your mind. Swami Paramarthananda ji gives a very nice example about how this is done. One example that Radha gave is, of course, a tambura pitch, which is again very apt. Swamiji says that imagine you're in a train going to Delhi. So there are a number of stops in between, and you get down at each stop to buy some food or the newspaper, and then there are some monetary transactions that happen. So though your mind is engaged in that transaction, still you constantly are aware that you are in an intermediate station and that your train may leave in a few minutes. So this awareness in the background while you continue to do your transactions is Manmanā bhava. Then we have madyājī bhava, that is turn every action into worship. You renounce doership and lead a life of karma yoga. And finally, namaskuru, surrender to God and He will take care. And finally, we attain moksha, Jivan Mukti, here and now. Krishna here again shows us why he is the greatest Acharya, because he is benevolent, he is magnanimous, and so systematically gives us every teaching necessary for us to grow spiritually. He reassures Arjuna again and again that there is nothing to fear or worry. Just do your duty and surrender to me with bhakti. With this, we complete the glorious 9th chapter, one of the most beautiful chapters on bhakti. And we will chant the concluding shloka. Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yoga Nama Navamodhyayah. This translates to, thus, iti, in the Upanishads of the glorious Bhagavad Gita, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, ends the 9th discourse titled Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yoga, the royal knowledge and the royal secret, because not everyone can understand that we are the infinite, eternal Atma. With that, we enter another glorious, beautiful chapter, that is Vibhuti Yoga. And I invite Dr. Jagdish to explain verse 10.1. Over to you, Dr. Jagdish, sir.
We have just talked about the sovereign science and the sovereign secret. And we are halfway through this marathon, as Madam Pannaga had summarized in the beginning. So now we move on to the little more colorful one, and that is the Vibhuti Yoga. What is Vibhuti Yoga? It is the infinite opulence of God, the Absolute. After these initial chapters of Karma Yoga, previous slide, man. After the initial chapters on Karma Yoga was followed by Bhakti Yoga, now Krishna is elaborating on his Vibhutis. These are verses pleasing to read and very enchanting to hear too. In fact, all that Krishna is doing is helping Arjuna to meditate by reflecting on his magnificence, the Vibhutis. As the slide shows, as the chapter progresses, Krishna elaborates personalities, objects, and activities to proclaim that he is the Alpha and the Omega of the entire universe. Next slide, man. Next slide. Now, in this slide, see, in the 7th chapter, Krishna elaborated personalities, objects, and activities to proclaim that he is the Alpha and Omega, right? So in the 7th chapter, he explained about the energies and their action. And that is like the sunlight, the water, the light, and so on. And in chapter 9, the same Vibhutis were establishing bhakti in Arjuna and in us with a firm conviction. And in the 10th chapter, which we are going to commence now, it's about the manifestations and the opulences. Yes, Krishna is giving these discourses because Arjuna is Priyamanaya and Hitakamyaya. He is his beloved confidant and that he will benefit. They are the two key words in this entire shloka. What are these opulences we are talking about? Parasar Muni says, Bhagavan has 6 opulences: beauty, fame, wealth, strength, knowledge, and finally renunciation. And Krishna displays all that. And so the shloka goes, next slide. Guhya eva mahabhaho shruname paramam vacha yatte aham priyamanaya vakshyami hitakamyaya. The anvartha would be, next slide. Guhya eva, again verily, mahabhaho Arjuna, you are the mighty armed one, but shruname, listen to me. Param vacham, my divine teachings. Yatte priyamanaya, you are my beloved confidant. That's why I'm telling you, Vakshami, desiring your welfare. Next slide, ma'am. Now, it's often said the master's zeal to teach waxes in unison with the receptive faculty of the taught. Rather high words. To make it simple words, it will be knowing and loving in teaching and learning are interrelated. Simple words. But again, Chinmayananda comes out with another high-level statement wherein he says, as the slide shows, Krishna is converting the skeptic and infusing a vitality to water the existing enthusiasm in the faithful. Next slide. Now, we can recall here Kathopanishad, with which we are familiar. Vadgrano bhuyat Nachiketa prasta, in the conversation between Yamaraja and Nachiketa. And again in chapter 3, sloka 32, Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana. Krishna is echoing, I have nothing to accomplish in this world but to teach and to act, execute my karmas also. So, with this little background, let us have a look at what is the Bhashyam perspective of this sloka. We are familiar with these phrases para, apara, purusha, prakriti, saguna, nirguna. Now, karanam is always Bhagavan, karyam is the glory of Bhagavan, that is the vibhutis. Next slide. Now, we having recalled that the karyam is the glory of Bhagavan, to quickly revise, 7th chapter, verse 8 to 10, the vibhutis were glorified. 9th, 16 to 19, they were elaborated. It is something like in 7th chapter, the seedlings were put. In 9th, we saw the saplings. And now in the 10th, we are going to see the entire tree verse. Well, what is the purpose of these vibhutis? Next slide, ma'am. What exactly is the purpose? And Shankaracharya comes out in a very simple language. And he says it is for upasanartham, through upasana padarthams. He is providing us with a mall of ideas, pratikam, for us to learn the Vedanta much better. And so we can say Vibhuti is Karya Prapancha Tattvam or Karana Swarupam, or better still, Karya Prapancha Bhagavata Tattvam. Now the question arises, why is Krishna repetitive? Next statement. Why is Krishna repetitive? Well, he is not so. He is only reinforcing like a good, competent guru. He is reiterating, which in Vedanta is called abhyasa. The reinforcement is not repetitive. But why? Sorry. Durvigne yatvat. Because these lessons are tough and difficult to comprehend, and so they have to be constantly pounded on us. And Krishna concludes by saying, Tvam madvachanat ativa priyase amritam pibam. Arjuna, since you seem to be delighted with my teachings, which are like nectar, I am sure. Yes, Krishna, even we are delighted at this nectarine teachings. And you open up with this first sloka, the gates for the 10th chapter, so that we enjoy the shower of vibhutis of Sri Krishna. Thank you very much. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jagdish sir, for giving this wonderful and comprehensive introduction to this Vibhuti Yoga chapter. So in this chapter, we understand that the material cause is never away from the product. As Dr. Jagdish said, that Bhagavan is Karanam and the Karyam are the glories of Bhagavan. So just like gold darshanam is always there in the ornament darshanam. You don't have to go looking for gold when you have a gold ornament in your hand. And now, because we know that Ishvara is the material cause also, so Ishvara is no more paroksha or away sitting in some distant loka. Ishvara is now pratyaksha, right now. It leads us to an appreciation of God's glory in everything. Even this breath, the power of sight, like a plant growing, the different features of each animal, its adaptations, the mountains, everything is God's glory. And we will see an entire list of these wondrous glories of the God. So Krishna's intent here is to bring in this transformation in vision. from Ekarupa to Anekarupa in the Madhyama Shatkam. We now invite Dr. Deepak Kamath to explain the second and third verses of the 10th chapter. Over to you, Dr. Deepak.
Thank you. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Name viduhu suraganaha prabhavam namaharshayah ahamadhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashah. Na suraganaha, neither the gods, na maharshayah, nor the great sages, viduhu me prabhava, know my origin. He aham adihi, because I am the origin, devana, of the gods, cha maharshina, and the great sages, sarvasha, in all respects. The whole verse meaning is, neither the gods nor the great sages know my origin, because I am the origin of the gods and the great sages in all respects. Verses number 1 to 3 are introductory verses to the topic Ishvara Vibhuti Jnana. At the outset, Lord Krishna advises Arjuna that the best entity to learn about the divine glory of the Lord is none other than Lord Krishna himself. And in the second verse, Lord Krishna explains why this is so. The Lord says, Aham Adihi, he, I am the origin, or I am the cause. Origin of who or what, one may question. The origin of the Suraganaha or Devaganaha, that is the different gods, as well as the origin of the Maharshaya, even the great rishis. Next slide, ma'am. In the Puranas, it is said that Brahmaji appears from the navel of the Lord and sees darkness everywhere at first. He does not see a second thing. It is said that Brahmaji at this point did not know of his own nature and is bestowed with knowledge by Lord Vishnu upon performing tapas. Thus, in this story, it is implied that since the gods and the Maharishis originated from the Lord and thus have come much later, their knowledge of the Lord would be incomplete. It is further implied that even the gods and the Maharishis, having got a limited intellect, mind, and instruments of knowledge, would not have a perfect understanding of the glory of the Lord. Which is what Lord Krishna says, Suraganaha cha maharshayah prabhavam na viduhu. Neither the gods nor the Maharishis cannot comprehend my origin or glory. Next slide, ma'am. Further, the Lord says he is the origin in the total sense, that is sarvasha. The Lord is not only the nimitta karanam, that is the intelligent cause, but also the upadana karanam, that is the material cause. Next slide, ma'am. Since this is so, Arjuna, you have to learn about my glory only from one source, and that is from me, says the Lord to Arjuna. Thank you. Verse number, the third verse of the 10th chapter. Yo mam ajam anadim cha vetti lokamaheshwaram asam mudha samartheshu sarva papaihi pramuchyate. Martheshu, among the mortals, saha asammudaha, those discriminative ones, yaha vetti, who know me, mam ajam, to be birthless, anadim, without beginning, cha loka maheshwaram, and the great Lord of the universe, pramuchyate sarva papai, become freed from all sins. So the whole verse meaning is, among mortals, those discriminative ones, who know me to be birthless, causeless, and the great Lord of the universe, become freed from all sins. Next slide, ma'am. So we start with the Lord saying, Asammuda, the intelligent individuals are those who strive towards developing viveka, which is discriminative ability, and to applying their mind to inquiring about some of the highest questions. For instance, is there a single causal entity underlying all worldly phenomena? And such individuals putting in their effort uncover the answer to this question, which is Jagat Karana Ishvara. That is, the discriminating, clear, undiluted intellect knows the Lord, Yahaveti, as the causeless cause of creation, Anadim, and also Ajam, that is, without a beginning. The Lord is thus birthless, and therefore he is also causeless. Reciprocally, since the Lord is causeless, he is birthless. Both are interconnected. Next slide, ma'am. And since the Lord is causeless, he is Loka Maheshwara, the causeless creator who is the controller of the whole universe. The discriminating individual will know that the Lord is the Srishti Sthiti Laya Karan. Saha Marteshu Asammudaha. Among the mortals, such an individual is one who has utilized his life for a worthy cause, inquiring after the highest questions, and is the most intelligent among human beings, says the Lord. Next slide. And such an individual derives the great benefit, which is sarva papai pramuchyate. They become free from the sins of samsara and thus become liberated. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Deepak, for that nice explanation of these two introductory verses. As we have just heard, Lord Krishna is again telling Arjuna about his true nature, the nature of the world. So it helps us move from the triangular Jiva Jagat Ishvara format to the binary Atma Anatma format. This is again a beautiful chapter, Vibhuti Yoga. With that, we come to the end of today's session. So as I said in the beginning, we're halfway there. We finished 9 out of 18 chapters, but we still have another 9 more to go. And all the chapters that are going to come are each one better than the other. So let us take a few moments after today's class, because we have finished 50%. We've heard and understood 9 chapters, and do the FIR self-assessment for our own understanding of where we stand now. So Param Vedanta has been doing this systematic study of the Bhagavad Gita through now GIFT, the previous Bhagavad Gita verse by verse series, and all the other spiritual texts. They're in fact complete and convenient online Vedanta courses. They're self-paced, with course material being uploaded every week. We have live discussions in all recording satsangs, and we encourage you to join in for these satsangs, because a lot of people ask questions, and it is an opportunity for us to interact with our Guru, Dr. Timappa Hegde sir. And this satsanga of committed seekers makes the whole journey of learning the Bhagavad Gita so much more enjoyable and fulfilling. We express our deep gratitude to our Guru, Swami Paramarthananda Ji and Dr. Hegde sir for creating this divine spiritual path for all of us. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, Pannaga, and all speakers of the day for your active participation in this divine journey. We shall meet in the next class of Mandukya Upanishad, session 24, on Friday, 1st November. Now it's time to conclude the session with Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamēvāvaṣyasye. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.